I'm going to pin it to your taskbar. You wanted your default browser. What? Yeah. It's still download. Just download Windows 10. Let me hold this up. Let me know it's down. I'm not. Not yet. I need to pull up the chat so I can ask them how to sound. Oh, she said sound is good. It's beautiful. Is that on? Is that on? Is the TV on? Yeah. Okay. Can't tell? I can't see it from here. From that angle? They say sound is okay. Yeah, she said it's good. So how do you get your bun like that up in the front? Working on the backs right now, but it's a okay, that's what you get. So on the back, it's a funny spot. Here, echo in this place. So you got on? I didn't put a bun in mine. I just put my ponytail and wrapped 3 scarves.
All righty.
Babe, have you seen the anointing oil?
I'm definitely not touching.
No, at one time.
It was on the table over there.
I thought it was on this table at one time.
Check the chauffeur bag and see if it's in there, please.
No.
I added 2 more, so now we have 17 songs.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Let me find your music.
Matthew chapter 1, right?
Mattithyahu chapter 1, 18 through 25. This is it. Oh, no.
I got this stuff on my skirt now. Oh, stuff.
Okay. How you doing over there?
All right.
So all the technical stuff working the way it should.
Okay.
I like your garment. Got your fringes on the bottom and everything. Think you might have an assistant there?
One never knows.
You know, ask if she can.
Oh yeah. Will you do the scroll while I'm reading the song today on the computer? The scroll. Mm-hmm.
Hallelujah.
Where is that Miriam? Here we go.
Okay. Before we get started, let me go up and check one more time to make sure there's nobody out front waiting to come in. And if not, then we'll go.
That's little ones, you know, because they overdo things. Hallelujah. What? We can stop? What? Yeah. Shabbat shalom. Shalom, how are you? To God, I like that scarf. And it's not, this not a long one, so you won't have much to do. Bereshith 32.
How you doing? You want to wear it? Peace and love. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right.
Are you starting on verse 4 in Bereshith? Never mind.
Well,
It's 37. It's
37 and 1.
and 1. Okay. I was on the wrong line. Did it come up yet?
It's just on.
The grandbabies say that's my grandpa. They see you on TV. Yoshi and Caleb.
Shabbat shalom, Yoshi and Caleb. Shabbat shalom. Hope y'all are doing well. Hallelujah. I know when you're ready. Hallelujah. I hope everybody had a good week. I know that I did. And the evidence is I'm still here. Hallelujah. It was a challenging week at work, but Yahuwah brought me through. And I'm here on Shabbat. And none of that seems to matter anymore. All the challenges of the week, it's in the past now.
Hallelujah.
Has anybody been watching the news? Have you seen how Yahuwah is bringing what was done in the darkness into the light? 3 senators in the past week have lost their seat due to sexual sin that they thought they got away with 20 years ago. And they've been getting away with abusing women ever since. And now Yahuwah snatched the covers off. And that thing they thought they got away with, not so much. Woo! I was doing some things. Did y'all see this week? Donald Trump declared that the U.S. would support the moving of the capital of Israel to Jerusalem.
Yeah, Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Opening up the U.S. embassy.
Palestinians have gone nuts.
Yeah. All around them. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but not of the Israeli state.
Yeah. It's about to get ugly.
Yes.
Jerusalem is going to be a burden for all concerned. Everybody, all the Confederates around there, they wringing their hands now. They're like, what's going to happen next? What we going to do? Palestinians met with the king of Jordan to see what their response was going to be to what Trump did. And they haven't said anything publicly yet. Some people were calling for protests, but Palestinians have never been known for nonviolent protests. You know, they fire rockets. So expect to see things heating up on that front.
You know, the only one of that do nonviolent protest. Everybody else is like contesting.
Yeah,
you like arms to start marching until they shoot.
Hebrews,
right.
Hebrews want to sing, and we won't. But you know, everybody else is like, get the guns. Hebrews are some of the most forgiving people you will ever meet. We can forgive slavery and still live in this country. That says a lot about our heart. You know, that we're still here in this land of our captivity and have not really held it against them to the point that we've gotten violent. We've been all this non-violent protest, and you know,
I think that'd be in the back of their mind too when they approach one of us. That's why they so intimidated by the melanin, because they in the back of their mind they gotta be saying, you know what, any day these jokers is going.
Right. That is their worst fear, that we're going to treat them in the manner that they treated us. And they understand that soon there will be more of us than there is of them. That's fast approaching. They're going to be in the minority. There's going to be more people of color in the world than it is the other people. And I think Malcolm X was the first person I heard to say that. And that's absolutely their worst fear. Is that we're going to be in control and we're going to treat them just like they did us.
Basically, what I read, they're going extinct. They're not reproducing at the pleasant levels.
Well, Yahuwah did tell us to be fruitful and multiply. And we don't seem to have any problem multiplying. I'm telling you. We don't seem to have a problem in that area. Unfortunately, too many of us have not been awakened. And so you have Hebrews running around trying to be Egyptians, running around trying to be in Kemet, running around trying to be Moors, running around trying to be everything except what they are. And the rest of them are running around trying to be atheists because they don't, they don't want to believe in anything. And then you got the ones that would rather believe the lie than accept the truth. And it's sad because you can really see how our people are perishing for lack of knowledge. They don't want to retain Yahuwah in their memories. And so he's turning them over to whatever they, are leaning toward. Are we ready? Okay. Well, let's get this puppy started.
Oh, you want me to go first?
No, I just want to know.
Yeah, where's...
All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is Yom Shabbat.
Hallelujah.
And I don't know about y'all, but I have waited all week for this day. My whole week revolves around Shabbat. My whole week revolves around Yahuwah. My whole life revolves around Yahuwah. If it wasn't for Yahuwah, I would not have life. I would not have breath. I would not be. He said, Ahaya, Asher, Ahaya, or I am that I am. I am that I will be. And, every word that comes out of his mouth is awesome. Hallelujah. And prophetic.
Hallelujah.
And so when Hamashiach said, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahuwah, that was such a deep statement, because every word that proceeds out of Abba's mouth comes to pass. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
That's who we're serving. Hallelujah. Let's give him a hand clap of praise. He is worthy. He is worthy. He is worthy of all of our praise. Let's stand, if you would, and face the holy city in the east, Jerusalem. Hallelujah. One day we're going to be going back into the land. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
But that little piece of land that they think is the Temple Mount. I got news. But let's go before the Most High and thank him and make our petitions known. Abba Yahuwah, we come before you now, humbling ourselves and esteeming you above all things, humbling ourselves and lifting you up. We exalt Hashem Abba Yahuwah. We exalt your name above all names. You are wonderful, perfect in all your ways. And we owe you all of our thanksgiving, adoration, worship, and praise.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. There is none like unto you, Abba Yahuwah. There is none like unto you. And your judgments are righteous and true. And we just want to say right now that we are you. We love you with all of our heart, soul, mind, and all that is within us.
Hallelujah.
We esteem you above all things. And so as we come before you now to make our petitions known, we ask that you would forgive us for where we've missed the mark, fallen short, and sinned against you. We ask that you would forgive us and give us a clean heart because it is our desire to be obedient to you. Sometimes we miss the mark, sometimes we slip, sometimes we fall. But when we're down there at our lowest point, on our knees, we remember you. Hallelujah. So we say, bless Yahuwah, the blessed one. Blessed is Yahuwah, the blessed one for all eternity. Blessed are you, Yahuwah, our Eloah, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all people and given to us your Torah. Blessed are you, Yahuwah, giver of the Torah.
Hallelujah.
Barak are you, Yahuwah, our Eloah, King of the universe, who has made us holy with your mitzvah and has instructed us to hear the call of the shofar. Hallelujah. 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 Hallel Yahuwah. Hallel Yahusha. Shema ho Yasher, Yahuwah thy Eloah is a high. Barak be the name of Yahuwah forever and ever.
Hallelujah. So be it.
Repeat after me, if you would, the 10 commandments. We will have no other Elohim before your face, Yahuwah.
We will have no other Elohim before your face, Yahuwah.
We will not make for ourselves a carved image.
We will not make for ourselves a carved image.
Any likeness of anything that is in heaven above.
Any likeness of anything that is in heaven above.
Or that is in the earth beneath.
Or that is in the earth beneath.
Or that is in the water under the earth.
Or that is in the water under the earth.
We will not bow down to them nor serve them.
We will not bow down to them nor serve them.
The name of Yahuwah our Eloah in vain.
We will not take the name of Yahuwah our Eloah in vain.
The Shabbat to keep it set apart.
We will remember the Shabbat to keep it set apart.
We will honor our fathers and our mothers.
We will honor our fathers and our mothers.
We will not murder.
We will not murder.
We will not commit adultery.
We will not commit adultery.
We will not steal.
We will not steal.
False witness against our neighbor.
We will not bear false witness against our neighbor.
We will not covet our neighbor's house.
We will not covet our neighbor's house.
We will not covet our neighbor's spouse.
We will not covet our neighbor's spouse.
Nor his male servant.
Nor his male servant.
Nor his female servant.
Nor his female servant.
Nor his ox.
Nor his ox.
Nor his donkey.
Nor his donkey.
Nor anything that is our neighbor's.
Nor anything that is our neighbor's.
We ask that you would remove any obstructions in our ears that would prevent us. We ask that you would take the blinders off our eyes so that we can see what the Ruach HaKodesh wants to do today from your Torah. Ruach HaKodesh, have your way in this place. Heal, make whole, renew, restore, rekindle, if necessary, the fire in our hearts. That our desire will be to Yahuwah, to Diďre, to Yahusha, the blood-bought price, who is covenant. Hallelujah. Hallel Yahuwah.
Hallel Yahuwah.
Hallel Yahusha.
Hallel Yahusha.
We were made to praise him. Let's give him a hand clap of praise. Has he been good to you this week? Has he kept you this week? Did he wake you up this morning? Do you have all your faculties? Did you walking? Are you talking? Did you eat this week? Did he provide for you this week? Did he lead you and guide you in the path of righteousness for his name's sake this week? What has he done for you? You ought to be dancing in praise. You ought to be dancing You ought to be praising him. You ought to be thanking him. He is worthy. He is worthy. He is worthy of all of our praise. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Tada Abba Yehoshua. You are worthy. And Hamashiach, who is done for us.
Hallelujah.
What we could not do. Hallelujah. He has bought us with his blood and given himself for us.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Tada.
There should be a bag of praise instruments around here somewhere. Grab an instrument of praise, tune up your voice. Get ready to give him some praise because we were made to praise him.
Hallelujah.
We were made to praise him. Baruch Hashem, Yahuwah, Baruch Hashem, Yahusha, Baruch Hashem, what's his name? Yahuwah, Baruch Hashem, Yahusha, Tada, for all you have done, Tada, for all you're doing, Tada, for all you will do, Tada, hallelujah, Baruch Hashem, Yahuwah, Baruch Hashem, Yahusha, Baruch Hashem, Yahuwah, Baruch Hashem, Yahusha, Torah, for all you have done, Torah, thank you, for all you're doing, Torah, for all you will do, Torah, everyone, hallelujah, Baruch Hashem, what's the name? Yahuwah, Baruch Hashem, what's the name? Yahusha, Baruch Hashem, what's the name? Yahuwah, Baruch Hashem, Yahusha, Torah, for all you have done, Torah, for all you're doing, Torah, for all you will do, Torah, hallelujah! Think of it in your own words. Think of it good. Think of it in your own way. Thank you for waking us up this morning. Thank you for your provision.
Hallelujah.
Thank you for your mercy, your goodness, and your grace. Baruch Hashem, Yahuwah, Baruch Hashem, Yahusha, Baruch Hashem, Yahuwah, Baruch Hashem, Yahusha, Torah, for all you have done, Torah, for all you're doing, Torah, for all you will do, Torah, hallelujah! Give him a hand of praise, give him a hand of praise. Oh, he is worthy.
You are worthy,
Is he not worthy?
You are worthy.
Let the people, let the redeemed of Yahuwah say so.
Hallelujah.
He is worthy. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
At this time, I would like my Asher Kaliyah to come and recite the Song of Miriam. Hallelujah.
Shabbat Shalom, Yasher, and all his companions. Hallelujah. Song of Miriam. Leviticus, chapters 1, verse 46 through 55. And Miriam said, my being makes Yahuwah great, and my Ruach has rejoiced in Elohim, my Savior, because he looked on the humiliation of his female servant. For look, from now on, all generations shall call me blessed. See, for he who is mighty has done wonders for me, and set apart is his name. And his compassion is from generation to generation to those who fear him. He did mightily with his arm. He scattered the proud in the thought of their hearts. He brought down rulers from their thrones and exalted the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good items, and the rich he has sent away empty. He sustained Yasher, his servant, in remembrance of his compassion, as he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham, and to his seed forever. Hallelujah.
Yahuwah. Yahuwah, ancient days. Yahuwah, there is none like you. Yahuwah, lead us and guide us in your certified ways. Yahuwah, Yahuwah, there is none like you. Yahuwah, there is none like you. From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, I will praise your name.
Yeah.
Yahuwah, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, I will praise your name. Yahuwah, Yahuwah, you sent your Mashiach to restore the path. You sent a Mashiach to to restore the path. Yahuwah, we just want to say, Yahuwah, we are haYamim. Yahuwah, we are haYamim. Yahuwah, you send your Mashiach to restore the path. And we just want to say, we are haYamim. We just want to say, we are haYamim. We are haYamim.
Hallelujah.
Has he been good to you this week, like he's been good to me? He is wonderful, and there is none like unto Yahuwah.
Hallelujah.
We owe him all of our thanksgiving, all of our praise, all of our worship.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
You are worthy, y'all.
And there
Hallelujah.
is none like him. Just want to take a moment today to say that you don't hear us talk about money much, but every now and then it becomes necessary to remind the people of Yahuwah that free will offerings and love offerings are accepted here. We do not tithe. Tithe was about food. It was not about money. And so we do not require a tithe. We're not Levites. We don't require a Levitical tithe. We're not under the Levitical priesthood. We are under the Melchizedek priesthood, of which Yehoshua is our high priest.
Hallelujah.
And our king. So over on the table in the red basket, you will find offering envelopes for the purpose of giving a free will or a love offering. What it is not used for, it is not used to pay our light bill or our gas bill. We pay that out of our pocket. And to keep the lights on and the heat on Shabbat is our reasonable service to Yahuwah. So that's not what your offering would be used for. To pay any of our bills. It's not used to buy the food that you eat on Shabbat. That comes out of our pockets. But what it is used for is to buy that library of books upstairs that you all are welcome to take a book home with you anytime and read it and bring it back. What it is used for is to assist with our registrations at the summer and the winter gathering. What it is used for is we used it to buy everyone that attends here regularly a safar. What it is used for is for gas when we go on road trips up to Battle Creek. Those are some of the things that it is used for. The other thing that it is used for is benevolence. When we have an akid or a koot that suffers a death in the family. I remember when akid Eric lost his baby. And those are the types of things that it's used for. It's And that's all I need to say. So now is the time that we're doing praise and worship. So that's all that needs to be said about that. And let us continue to praise and to worship.
Hallelujah.
I see my key. Riley! Shabbat shalom, Riley. Look at you. My little key. All right.
Hallelujah.
So I want to ask you today, will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Because the Ruach HaKodesh and the bride say, come. Will you be ready? Do you have oil in your lamps? Do you have the Ruach HaKodesh? Are you in his word on a daily basis? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Are you keeping yourself from compromise? Because there is no good compromise. When you compromise, then that means that you're giving up some of your position. Your position is Yahuwah's position. Yahuwah doesn't give up ground to agree with the world. That's not our place. Our place is to stand strong and stand firm for Yahuwah's position, for his word, for Hamashiach. That's what we stand for. That's how we are to carry ourselves in this world, because we are in the world, but we are not of the world. Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? The Spirit and the bride say, come. Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? The Spirit and the bride say, come. The Spirit and the bride say, come. Hallelujah. The Spirit and the bride say, come. Have you oil in your lamps, or are you fast asleep? Yasher, are you ready for the groom, the soon coming King, King of all? Have you oil in your lamps, or are you fast asleep? Yasher, are you ready for the groom, the soon coming King, King of all? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? The Spirit and the bride say, come. Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? The Spirit and the bride say, come. The Spirit and the bride say, come. Come.
Hallelujah.
The Spirit and the bride say, come. Hallelujah. Have you oil in your lamps, or are you fast asleep? Yasher, are you ready for the groom, the soon coming King, King of all? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Yasher, are your garments clean? Yasher, Yasher, with those that you've done wrong, have you made amends? Yasher, have you oil in your lamps, or are you fast asleep? Yasher, are your garments clean? Yasher, Yasher, with those you've done wrong, have you made amends? Yasher, are you ready for the King to come in? Yasher, bridegroom comes. Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? The Spirit and the bride say come. Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? Will you be ready when the bridegroom comes? The Spirit and the bride say come. Spirit and the bride say come. Yasher, Spirit and the bride say come. Come. Spirit and the bride say come. Come, Yasher. Spirit and the bride say come. Come, Yasher. Spirit and the bride say come. Ruach HaKodesh is calling. Spirit and the bride say come. Open your heart. The Spirit and the bride say come. Yasher, come. Hallelujah. 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 Our Torah portion today is coming from Bereshith, chapter 37, starting at verse 1. Genesis 37 and starting at verse 1. In your Sephirs, it's on page 54. Bereshith 37 and 1. Somewhere on page 54 or thereabouts. If you have your Sephirs, you'll find it there. When you have it, just say "Con." Riley. You just want grandma to hold you, don't you?
I'm guilty.
Yeah, we understand. We understand. Nothing like grandma's love. Hallelujah. She just spoil you, and then send you home to your parents. Right, Riley? I know. I'm guilty too. Bereshith 37 and 1. And it reads, and Yaakov dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Yaakov. Yosef, being 17 years old, was feeding Aleph, the flock, with his brethren. And the lad was with Aleph, the sons of Bilhah, and with Aleph, the sons of Zilpah, his father's women. And Yosef brought Aleph unto his father their evil report. That couldn't have done much for the family relationship. Yosef brought their evil report, scripture says, to their father. Now, we must understand that Yosef's future preeminence made him the object of jealousy and hatred from his brethren. He was particularly despised by the 4 sons of the handmaids who ranked the lowest: Bilhah, who brought forth Dan and Naphtali, and Zilpah, who brought forth Gad and Asher. So the situation was further escalated by Joseph in an unfavorable report to his father Yaakov. It made his brothers resent him even more. But let's read on and see what Scripture has to say about it. Verse 3, we're picking up. Now Yasher loved Aleph Yosef more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. That means that he was his Yashid, the son of his old age, his favorite. Now, you know, if any of you are parents, you know what it's like if you begin to favor one child over the others. I mean, most parents, they won't admit it to you, but they usually have a child that they favor. They have a child that is their favorite. And we see that relationship here played out with father and son. In verse 3, now Yasher loved Aleph Yosef more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a coat of many colors. He made him a coat of many colors. By doing so, the coat of many colors, his father's intent was to honor Yosef with the birthright, forfeited by Reuben, the birthright which was forfeited by Reuben. That was the father's intent when he made his Yashid, Yosef, the coat of many colors. You can find reference to that in 1 Chronicles 5, 1 and 2. Now, what we also need to understand about Yosef was that he was a type of Hamashiach. He was a type of Hamashiach. How can we say that? The reference is in Mattithyahu 3 and 17. Can somebody read me Mattithyahu 3 and 17, please? Anybody? Mattithyahu 3 and 17. Yehoshua was a type of Hamashiach.
And lo, a voice from heaven saying, "This is my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased."
So a voice from Shamayim said, "This is my beloved son," talking about Hamashiach, in whom I am well pleased. So to the father, to Abba, Hamashiach is his Yashid, his son. But in this relationship, we're looking at Yosef, and he was the Yashid of Yaakov. He was the favored son. He was a type of Hamashiach. Somebody get me the Surah of John 15 and 25. And somebody else get me Mattithyahu 21, 37 through 39. Okay, go ahead with John 15, 25.
But this come to pass
that the word might be fulfilled that is written in their law. They hated me without a cause.
That it might be fulfilled, that it come to pass, the word that was written, that they hated me without a cause. So Hamashiach was hated without a cause. This also describes Jehoshaphat's relationship with his brothers. They hated him without a cause. So he is a type of Hamashiach. Who's got Mattithyahu 21:37 through 39?
You said 27:31?
21:37 through 39. Let's see how it plays out, how Yehoshua is a type of Hamashiach.
Matthew 21:37. But last of all, he sent unto them his son, saying, they will reverence my son. And when the husbandmen saw the son, they said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and let us seize on his inheritance. And they caught him and cast him out of the vineyard and slew him.
They said, this is the heir. Same thing with Joseph. He was the heir, and his brothers are about to conspire, so they think, to kill him. But let's pick it up in verse 4. Bereshith 37 and verse 4. And it reads, and when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. Talking about Joseph. They hated him. When his father, it became apparent that he was the Yashid of his father. And so he was the favorite. And his brothers didn't like that very much. Have you ever experienced in your life, as you were going along, and the favor of Yah is upon you, and things just work out for your good, and other people don't always understand why. But when you touch a thing, it prospers. When you walk in the way and keep his commandments, you begin to have the favor of Yahuwah upon you. Have you ever noticed that sometimes people don't like you very much when you have that favor upon you? They don't know why the things happen to you that happen to you. But we know why. It's the favor of Yahuwah upon us. Let's pick it up in verse 5. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. So basically, he's telling his brothers, y'all are going to have to answer to me one day. One day. Now, he's speaking these words. He doesn't know how prophetic these words are. But we're going to find out as we read on in Scripture. We're going to find out. We're going to see this come to pass. We're going to see his words come to pass. Let's pick it up in verse 8. And his brethren said to him, shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream and told it his brethren. and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. Verse 10, and he told it to his father and to his brother. And his father rebuked him and said unto him, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to you, to the earth? And his brethren envied him. Not a good look. Envy is not a good look for us as Yah's people. We are not to, jealousy is ugly. Envy promotes strife. And his brethren envied him. But his father observed Aleph the saying. His brother envied him, but his father observed the saying. Think about that for a minute. His father rebuked him, but his father observed the saying when he told him the dream. How else was he a type of Hamashiach? We're going to find that out as we read on. We're going to find that out in Scripture. And his brethren, this is verse 12, went to feed Aleph their father's flock in Shechem. And Yasher said unto Yosef, do not your brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you unto them. And he said to him, here am I. What do we see here? We see why he's his father's Yeshayah. His father says, look, I want you to do this thing. He says, here am I. In other words, I'm ready to be obedient. I'm ready to do what you want me to do, Dad. Here am I. I'm ready. Verse 14. And he said to him, go, I pray you, see Aleph whether it be well with your brethren, and Aleph with the flocks. And bring me word again. So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, what do you seek? And he said, I seek Aleph my brethren. Tell me, I pray you, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, they are departed hence, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. Isn't that what haters do? They see you coming. Before you even get up next to them, they hating on you. They already got their eyes fixed on you to figure out how they can get what you got, how they can have what you have. They saw him coming from afar off, and they conspired against him to slay him. That's not a good look. That's not a good look at all. And because of that, there is going to be a price to pay. There is going to be a price to pay. Look at how they talk about it. Verse 19. And they said one to another, behold, the dreamer comes. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit. This is their brother they're talking about now. How do you form your mouth to say that about your brother? That's what envy and jealousy will do for you. It's a heart issue. It puts your heart totally in the wrong place because you're so busy focused on what it is that they got that you want, you can't even get your mind right. You're busy in envy and jealousy. Behold, this dreamer comes. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit. And we will say, they're getting their alibi together now, and we will say, some evil beast has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. They didn't like them dreams, did they? We're going to see what becomes of his dreams when we throw him in the pit. Verse 21, and Reuben heard it. Now, Reuben is the firstborn. Sees how the father, how Joseph is his Yeshayah. But Reuben is the firstborn. And Reuben heard it. And he delivered him and said, let us not. Well, that was a good move. Let us not kill him. But look what Reuben says in verse 22. And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood in this pit, wilderness, and lay no hand upon him out of their hands to deliver him to his father again. So Reuben becomes his ally at this point. Shed no blood to this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands. Why? With the intent to deliver him to his father. And it came to pass, verse 23, come unto his brethren, that they stripped Aleph Yosef out of his Aleph his coat, his Aleph coat of many colors that was on him, that his father gave him. And they took him to a pit, and the pit was empty, water in it, to eat bread. And they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites, Ishmaelim, came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Mitzrayim. Spicery and balm and myrrh. They saw them coming. They like, oh, here's our way. Here's our way out. We'll sell him to the Yishmaelim. Ooh. Inflicted by sin. Joseph was sold, brothers, for 20 pieces of silver. Price of a common slave. You find the price of a common slave in Exodus 21 and 32. A common slave. Look it up when you have time. They sold Joseph for less than the price of a common slave. Is that parallel? Because they sold Yehoshua, he was betrayed. 30 pieces of silver. Joseph, a type of Hamashiach, for less of a common slave. They sold their brother. All right, let's read on. Past that, I try to picture. I love my brother. I try to picture, is there anything that my brother could do to me to make me to want to sell him? And it's hard for me to imagine that, but when I begin to think about jealousy, then it begins to resonate with me how they could do this to their brother, because what he had. They wanted what well, in verse 26. Now, here's the viewpoint of it. We heard what Reuben had to say. Now let's hear what Yehudah says. And Yehudah said unto his brethren, is it if we slay Aleph our brother and conceal blood? Look at this motive now. It's all about the motive. What profit is it if we murder and conceal his blood? Yehudah's got a plan working here. Plan, but he's got it going on. He's got it going on. He's got his plan formulating. There's a way to profit if they kill their brother and their father understands is dead. What's the profit? What's the profit, y'all? What would they profit? Father sees the blood, father is dead. What then happens? I didn't hear that.
Else would take over what it was.
Inheritance. That is the benefit for them. See that Yehudah's motive is a motive of profit. He wants to profit off this. What his brother had. Okay. Profit is it if we slay Aleph our brother and conceal his blood. Look what he says in verse 27. Sell him to the Yishmaelim and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. About now, are you starting to think, well, Yehuda's not so bad? Let's read on. And his brethren were content. Then there passed by a Midianite merchantmen, who and lifted up Aleph Yosef out of the pit, and said, Aleph Yosef to the Ishmaelim. So it wasn't the brothers. Midianite merchantmen, they drew and lifted up Aleph Yosef out of the pit, Aleph Yosef to the Ishmaelim for 20 pieces of silver. Aleph into Mitzrayim. Okay, so now the brothers had the intent in their heart. They had a plan. Yehuda had a plan. Reuben had a plan. And they had it all worked out what they were going to do. But they didn't anticipate that the Midianite merchantmen were going to come along and take their brother out of the pit. So now the situation has changed a little bit. So his brothers had the intent to sell him for the 20 pieces of silver, less than the price of a common slave. But it didn't quite work out the way that they had thought. But what did they still have? They had the coat of many colors. So the coat of many colors is going to turn to be the evidence to their father. But let's read on. We're going to pick it up in verse 29. Returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. Took off his clothes. And he returned unto his brethren and said, the child is not. Whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed the kid of the goats and dipped Aleph the coat in the blood. And they sent Aleph many colors to their father and said, this have we found. Know now whether it be your son's coat or no. And he knew it and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is without a doubt rent in pieces. And Yaakov rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I will go down into Sheol unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him, and the Midianim sold him into Mitzrayim unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard. Somebody get me Exodus 22 and 13. This coat, the coat that they still had, the coat of many colors, the ranking robe became the legal evidence, Joseph's inheritance to his rivals. Who's got Exodus 22 and 13? You do? Go ahead, Aki.
If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good that which was torn.
If it be torn in pieces. Read that other part again.
If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good that which was torn.
So hold your thought. If it be torn in pieces, let them bring it for a witness. So that's what they did with the coat of many colors to their father. They brought it for a witness. And what happened? Their father bought it lock, stock, and barrel. According to the law. Your father just saw the blood. He saw the coat. They done it accordingly. And he understood what it meant. Ooh, it's getting ugly. He knew it was his son's coat. He knew it was the ranking robe that he had given him. And when he saw the blood, he rent his clothes and he began to mourn. And none of his other children could comfort him for the loss of his son. Verse 36. I'm going to repeat that again. And the Midianite sold him into Mitzrayim, or Egypt, unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh of the guard. So we see here in verse 37 that Yaakov, a former cruel deceiver, was himself cruelly deceived. But look at this. The grace of Yah was overruling evil for good. He's going to make this situation turn around and work for good in Joseph's life. His brothers meant it for evil. His brothers wanted what he had. His brothers were jealous and envious of him. But look what Yahuwah does. The irony of that situation, y'all know the story of Yaakov and how he got the birthright and the blessing. Yaakov, a former cruel deceiver, was himself cruelly deceived by his sons. But the grace and the mercy of Yahuwah was overriding evil for good. Now look at this irony of this. The son that Yaakov mourned would one day mourn his death with all of Egypt's splendor, with the pharaohs and all the mighty men and all the royalty. One day, the situation is going to turn around, and it's going to be the son mourning the father with all of Mitzrayim's splendor. Let's go on to chapter 38. I'm going to talk about Yehudah's sin now. Chapter 38. And it came to pass at that time that Yehudah went down from his brethren and turned in to a certain Adulami, whose name was Hira.
And Yehuda saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite. He saw the daughter of a Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bore a son. And he called Aleph his name Let me just put that out there. Why is that a problem? Why is this a problem? What Yehuda has done? Exactly. Khan. Good answer. They weren't supposed to marry Canaanites. That's why it's a problem. But we're talking about Yehuda's sin now. What has he done? He's making an alliance with idolaters. No good compromise. There is no good compromise. When you begin to compromise Yahuwah's position and do that thing which he doesn't want you to do, you begin to compromise yourself. You begin to fall on the wrong side of the plumb line. You do it to yourself when you begin to compromise. There is no good compromise. Yehuda's making an alliance with idolaters. Let me carry on. We're picking it up in verse 4. She's already had one son. Verse 4, and she conceived again and bore him a son. And she called Aleph his name Onan. That's two sons. Verse 5, and she yet again conceived and bore a son, and called Aleph his name Shalach. And he was at Kiziv when she bore him. So that's three sons, right? But it's three sons that he shouldn't have had. When you sin, when you compromise, so that you can go along with what the world is doing, there's always a price to pay. There's always a price to pay. You might not think it. You might think, oh, yeah, Yehuda didn't see that. You know, it's no big deal. I married a Canaanite. Not so. Yehuda sinned. He made an alliance with idolaters. He went down both geographically from the heights of Hebron to the Philistine hill country, and he went down morally from the high covenant standards to low practices of the Canaanites. The reason he did that, Abba didn't want us to marry the Canaanites is because the Canaanites were idolaters that had bad, very bad practices. And we're going to find out about that as we go on. This meant separation from his brothers, Yah's covenant people. This meant Yehuda joining with pagans. This meant Yehuda creating disunity in his father's house. Yehuda had three sons by Shua. Such flagrant compromise with sin can only bring tragic sorrow. No good compromise. No good compromise. So that's three sons Yehuda has. Let's see what he does now. In verse 6, Yehuda took a woman for his firstborn son, whose name was Tamar. And Yehuda's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yehuwah. And Yehuwah slew him. No good compromise. He was wicked in Yehuwah's sight, And Yahuwah slew him. And Yehuda said unto Onan, go in unto your brother's woman, and marry her, and raise up seed to your brother. That was their custom. If the brother dies, the other brother that remains goes in, marries the woman, and raises up seed to his brother's name. Okay? And that's what Yehuda commanded his son to do. But it's lost on him that these children were conceived in sin. So let's see what happens in verse 9. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went into his brother's woman, that he spilled his seed on the ground. He spilled it on the ground. So it was impossible for her to conceive because his seed was on the ground. It was not inside of her. Does anybody know that that's a problem? Can anybody see that there's a problem coming because of that? Do you think that Yahuwah looked upon that in any kind of a positive way? That's wrong on so many levels. First of all, he's not following the law. Secondly, he's wasting his seed on the ground. That's an abomination. I want you to know that's an abomination to Yahuwah. Verse 10, and the thing which he did displeased Yahuwah, wherefore he slew him also. That's dead son number 2. He only had 3, right? That's dead son number 2. First one gone. Second one gone. Verse 11. Then said Yehuda to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at your father's house till Shalach, my son, be grown. For he said, lest peradventure he die also, as his brothers did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. That was also improper of Yehuda to do that. He was trying to get rid of her. Send her back to her father's house. He doesn't want to give up that last son. He got 2 dead sons already, and he doesn't want a 3rd one. So instead of giving her to his 3rd son, he withholds the son and sends her back to her father's house. Not a good look. Yehuda had 3 sons by Shua. Such flagrant compromise with sin could only bring tragic sorrow. Somebody get me Micah 1:14. Micah 1:14. Somebody else get me Joshua 15:44. Tragic sorrow. Micah 1:14. This is the result of Yehuda's sin. An alliance with idolaters.
What was the second scripture?
Got Yehoshua or Joshua 15:44. Anybody got the Micah? Come.
Therefore you shall give parting gifts to Bereshith God, the houses of Aqib shall be a deceitful thing to the kings of Israel.
The house of who?
Aqib.
Aqib. Shall be a what?
Deceitful thing.
Deceitful thing.
Kings of Israel.
The kings of Israel. They don't know it yet, but in the future, this is going to come back to haunt them. You have the Joshua 15 and 44. Go ahead, Ak.
And Keilah and Achzib and Bereshith, 9 cities with their villages. Ekron with its towns and its villages, from Ekron to the sea. All that were by the side of Ashdod with their villages. Ashdod, its towns and its villages. Azah, its towns and its villages, as far as the Wadi of Mitzrayim and the great sea with its coastline.
Go ahead.
And in the mountain country, Shemoth and Yattir, and Succoth, and then Danah and Kira, Sanah, that is Diḅre, and Anab and Eshtimol and Anan, and Goshen, and Holan, and Gilo, 11 cities with their villages.
That's a lot of territory. 11 cities with their villages. The result of Yehuda's compromise with sin. Micah 1:15. Should have put a marker there. Did you notice that name was the same? Oxy, that name, we heard that name in both of those verses. That name was the same familiar name. Hallelujah. That's the thing about sin. It always comes back to bite you. You think that you got away. You think that it's okay. You know, we were talking earlier about the 3 senators that bit the bullet this week, of which John Conyers was one. You think that you got away. You maybe went 5 years. You maybe went 10 years. You maybe went 15 years. Maybe you went 20 years. But guess what? You didn't get away. You didn't get away. 20 years later, it's coming back to bite you. Years later, it's coming back to bite you. Okay, what was that? That address, Aki? 1 and 15. Okay. Yet will I bring an heir unto you, O inhabitant of Bereshith. He shall come unto Adullam with the esteem of Yasher. Yet will I bring an heir unto you, O inhabitant of Bereshith. He shall come unto Adullam with the esteem of Yasher. Hallelujah. What do you think this is that this is talking about? Yet I will bring an heir unto you, O inhabitant of Bereshith. He shall come unto Adullam with the esteem of Yasher, make you bald, and poll you for your delicate children. Enlarge your baldness as the eagle, for they are gone into captivity from you. There's always a price to pay when you compromise, and Yehuda has to pay that price. But let's continue. No good compromise. No good compromise. Yehuda just done took up with these Adullamites. Ooh boy. He figured he done got rid of Tamar, sent her back to his father's house. Let's see what happens. Tamar went and dwelled in her father's house. Verse 12, we're picking up. And in process of time, the daughter of Shua, Yehuda's woman, died, and Yehuda was comforted, and went up unto his sheep shearers to Timnah. He and his friend Hira, the Adullamite. So he's still just hanging out with them. You know, I'm a marry into the family. I'm gonna hang out. Verse 13. And it was told Tamar, saying, behold, your father-in-law goes up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And she put on her widow's garments off from her. She put her widow's garments off from her and covered her with a veil and wrapped herself and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shemoth was grown, and she was not given unto him to be his woman. She knew what her right was. She knew the law. She knew what was supposed to happen. She knew she was supposed to be given to the number 3 son. But it didn't happen. You want to make a comment? Go ahead.
Like you knew her father-in-law had things for the prostitutes. She took her garments off and sat in her place.
She took off the garments of her widowhood and went and sat in the way. She's sitting in the red light district. She's sitting there waiting because she knows what his predilection is. See, Yehuda had fallen into sin. And so she figured a way that she was going to, so to speak, even the score for not being given the number 3 son. Let's look at that a little more in depth. So the firstborn son, suffered a premature death. So Tamar wore the disguise of a harlot. qᵉdêshâh is the word. Strong 6948. qᵉdêshâh. A female devotee, i.e. prostitute. Strong 6948. I'm sorry. qᵉdêshâh. Strong 6948. A harlot, a whore. Now let's look at it even more in depth. Votary, a cult prostitute, according to the debased Canaanite fertility cults. Do you see why it's bad that Yehuda took up with these Canaanites? They have a fertility cult where both males and females were devoted to sexual immorality as part of a religion. Is it starting to make sense now? Are we starting to see why Yahuwah did not want them marrying into the Canaanites? Because all this kind of stuff goes on a regular basis with the Canaanites. qᵉdêshâh, a female devotee, i.e. prostitute, harlot, whore, a cult prostitute, according to the debased Canaanite fertility cults, where both males and females were devoted to sexual immorality as a part of a religion.
Wow.
So we know that's not following Torah. That's a strange religion. That's what happens when you follow a strange L. That's what happens. You get caught up. You get caught up. There is no good compromise. You get caught up and now you can't get out of it. Let's see what happens to him. He sent Tamar to her father's house, and what he saw was an opportunity to be free of her, as he did not want to give her his surviving son, Shemoth. Ooh-wee. Once you start down that road, once you start down the road of sin, it doesn't get better. It gets progressively worse. It gets worse as you travel down that road. And Yehuda's about to find out how bad it can get. We read over things sometimes so fast. And how many times have we read that story about Tamar? And we come up to it and it says, Yehuda said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at your father's house till Shemoth my son be grown, lest peradventure he die also, as his brother did. And Tamar went and dwelt in his father's house, in her father's house. Wow. And then we go on and we read down a little more and we see that Yehuda's still hanging out with his friend Hira, the Adullamite. And so Tamar hears that Yehuda goes up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And then she forms a plan. She puts off her widow's garments from off her and covered her with a veil and wrapped herself and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnah, for she saw that Shemoth was grown and she was not given unto him to be his woman. Verse 15, when Yehuda saw her, he thought her to be a harlot. Why? Because he knew the practices of the Canaanites. He knew about the cult. He knew that it was a sexual cult. He knew what he was getting into when he turned into her, and he said, he turned into the harlots. He thought her to be a harlot because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way and said, go to, I pray you, let me come in unto you. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. Why is that a problem, y'all? Why is that a problem? It's against the law. Hallelujah. I got a student back there. I mean, she is on the case. It's against the law. A father is not to go in unto his daughter-in-law. Now he's committed this sin, and it's got 7 times worse. He doesn't even realize the sin he's committed. So, verse 16 goes on to say, and she said, what will you give me that you may come in unto me? I'm going to let you come, but what are you going to give me in return? And he said, I will send you a kid from the flock. And she said, will you give me a pledge? So your promise isn't good or all good, just your promise. I need some collateral. Leave me some collateral until you send what you say is going to be your payment. I'll send you a kid from the flock. She said, will you give me a pledge till you send it? And he said, what pledge shall I give you? And she said, your signet. Now his signet hangs around his neck on a chain, and he puts his signet, when he sends a correspondence, he marks it with his signet so they know, okay, this came from Yehuda. So she asked for his signet, she asked for his bracelets, your signet and your bracelets, and your staff that is in your hand. And he gave it to her, and came in unto her. And she conceived by him. Verse 19. And she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. Verse 20. And Yehuda sent Aleph the kid by the hand of his friend, the Adulami. Yehuda still hasn't learned. He's still hanging around with Hira, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand. But he found her not. Then he asked Aleph, the men of that place, saying, where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. Uh-oh. Verse 22. I'm sorry, verse 22. And he returned to Yehuda and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place. And Yehuda said, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and you have not found her. And it came to pass, about 3 months after, that it was told Yehuda, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. And also, behold, she is with child by the whoredom. And Yehuda said, bring her forth and let her be burnt. Uh-oh. Bring her forth and let her be burnt. Ooh-wee. Bring her forth and let her be burnt. Somebody get me Leviticus 20 and 12. Leviticus 20 and 12. Yehuda said, bring her forth and let her be burnt. But let's find out what the law says. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Leviticus 20 and 12. And a man who lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall certainly be put to death. They have made confusion. Their blood is upon them. Okay, the law says that both he and she should be put to death, but he's seeking to have her burned. He doesn't realize yet that his neck is in the noose. He doesn't realize that there is no good compromise. He doesn't realize that his sin is about to walk up and slap him in the face. That's not a good look. There is no harlot in this place. Ooh-wee. And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Yehuda, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. And also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Yehuda said, bring her forth and let her be burnt. When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man whose these are, am I with child. And she said, discern, I pray you, whose are these? The signet and bracelets and staff. And Yehuda acknowledged them and said, she has been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shalach my son, and he knew her again no more. So Yehuda had to admit that she was more righteous than he was. He couldn't get out of it. It was his signet. It was his staff. It was his bracelets. So obviously, she's pregnant by her father-in-law. They're both supposed to die according to the law. Ooh-wee. This has turned into a heck of a situation. Ooh. But guess what? Divine grace and mercy was displayed. Despite their sins, both Yehuda and Tamar are in the genealogy of Yahushua HaMashiach. Despite their sins, you'll find that in Mattithyahu 1 and 3. You'll find that both their names are there. Though they should have died that day. They should have died that day. But if you look at Mattithyahu 1 and 3, in the genealogy of Hamashiach, both their names are there. That is divine grace and mercy. Yahuwah was merciful to them. And furthermore, Peretz, the son, became an ancestor of the Davidic line. Tamar had twins from that pregnancy. Tamar had twins, and her son, Peretz, became an ancestor of the Davidic line. When the twins came out, she had two twins. She had a set of twins, Peretz and Zerach. Zerach was the first one to come out. He stuck his hand out when he was being birthed, and the midwife tied a scarlet thread upon his hand. And then he took his hand back, and his brother came out. So what we're seeing here is another example of Yahuwah choosing the second son. He chose the second son to be an ancestor of the Davidic line. And the first son, Zerach, which the midwife had tied a scarlet thread on his finger, he later in life produced from the tribe of Zerah a trespass of Yasher in regard to the things of Carmi, the son of Achan, the son of Zabadi, the son of Yehuda. Woo-wee! No good compromise.
I'm going to add the first son that came out is a similitude of Esau.
A similitude of Esau. Scarlet thread was tied on his finger. A similitude of Esau. Kanaki. Woo-wee. No good compromise, y'all. Might seem appealing for the moment. You know, think about your own personal life. Think about who you hang out with, who you do business with. Who is it that you're letting into your inner circle? And how might that cause you to compromise Yahuwah's position? You know, Yehuda here had chosen Hira to be his friend, Hira the Adulami. And Hira was not good for Yehuda, because Yehuda got involved in all kinds of things hanging around with Hira. And so we have to be mindful in our lives, in our business dealings. You know, just for a moment, I'll use myself as an example. I'm a musician, right? So I played with all kinds of people. I used to play with all kinds of offshoot bands from the Parliament Funkadelic. And I didn't realize it at the time because I hadn't come into truth, but I was compromising myself because I was with people who were being used by the Illuminati, by the powers that be, to make them rich. But yet, in the process of doing so, they were involving themselves in all kinds of sin. So the people that I chose to hang around with were a stumbling block to me. Unbeknownst to me, they were a stumbling block to me. I played Woodstock and sat in with HR from Bad Brains. You know, I had a whole life, and my life centered around music. And music took the place of what Yahuwah's place should have been. And my whole existence was chasing after a recording contract. And so I was doing myself a disservice, but I didn't even know it. I was doing myself a disservice, but I thought I was just chasing my dream, right? But little did I know that my dream, had Yahuwah allowed me to be successful as I could have been with that dream, I would have been selling myself, selling my soul to the Illuminati. I wrote a record with Ron Banks of the Dramatics. That record went to 29 on Billboard. It was shooting up the charts. It had a bullet next to it. Guess what happened? Jesse Jackson started to protest against the song. It got pulled from the airways. It was 29 with a bullet. Everybody wanted the song. George Clinton wanted the song. But it ended up, we let Ron Banks' little brother do it. His group was called the Five Special. That song was 29 with a bullet. It was in the top 40 on the black charts. And it got pulled off the air because Jesse Jackson had a phrase in the song that said, "Jam, you mothers, let's take it to the street." Now, we've all sinned and fallen short of his glory. So at the time, I was proud of it, right? Because I enjoyed pulling up to the stoplight in my car and hearing my song being played in the next car and watching the people. They were getting into it. And it touched me because something that I had created was bringing joy to them. And I loved seeing them tapping their feet and shaking their head. Of going to the record store and asking to buy it, and the copies were all sold out. Now, I was going to buy every copy in the store, but they had already been bought. But I didn't know that I was doing myself a disservice. So I'm looking at Yehuda here and all this sin that he's participating in the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the wrong people. And he doesn't even know that it almost caused him to be put to death because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong harlot that wasn't a harlot. It was his daughter-in-law. no good compromise. There is no good compromise. So, you know, I share that because, you know, we all have a background. We all have a past. And trust me, I am so thankful that Yahuwah did not allow me to have the success that I could have had, because it might have turned my head around and I might still be there today, because I have friends that still are. I have a friend that was Michael Jackson's music director. I have a friend that played with Eric Clapton for years. I have friends all over in the music business. I have friends that are engineers in California right now. When I lived in California, they were hiring me to be assistant art director on music videos. I did Shaq's video, Bushwick Bill, all kinds of filth, and, you know, paint the White House black. I was involved with all that stuff. But Yahuwah was merciful to me.
Hallelujah.
And took me out of that and brought me into the knowledge of his truth.
Hallelujah. To God.
And for that, I will forever be grateful to him. So, like I said last week, I would rather spend one night in the house of my father being a doorman than to spend the night in the tents of the wicked. Because I know from whence my help comes from. I know Yahuwah is my shield and my buckler and my provider. I don't go hungry. I'm not naked in the street. And I'm obedient. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. That's what it's about. So anyway, let's carry on. I don't know why he had me share that, but somebody needs to hear it.
Hallelujah.
Shout out to all my granddaughters, to all my daughters, grandsons. I hobby you. So let's carry on. There's always a price to pay when we compromise. Always a price to pay. We might think we got away, but there's always a price to pay. So Tamar had twins. Wow. Ooh-wee. We're going to pick it up in verse 39. And Joseph was brought down unto Mitzrayim, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian in Mitzrayim, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelim, which had brought him down thither. And Yahuwah was with Aleph Yosef, and he was a prosperous man. So he's a slave now. Remember, he was sold for less than the price of a common slave. But Yahuwah takes that which was done for bad and turns it around to his good. Verse 2, Yahuwah was with Aleph Yosef, and he was a prosperous man. He was in the house of his master, the Mitzri. And his master saw that Yahuwah was with him. And Yahuwah made all that he did to prosper in his hand. Like I told you before, somebody is always watching you. His master was watching him. His master was watching him and saw that Yahuwah made everything that he touched to prosper. Yahuwah made all that he did to prosper in his hand, and Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him. And he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that Yahuwah blessed Aleph, the Egyptian's house, for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of Yahuwah was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand. In Joseph's hand, he left all that he had. He didn't have any problem going away on business trips. He didn't have any problem going to do Pharaoh's business, because he knew that home was going to be taken care of, because Joseph was there. Here's number one. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had. He didn't even know how much he had. He didn't even know how rich he was. He didn't even know all that he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's woman cast Aleph her eyes upon Yosef, and she said, lie with me. But he refused and said unto his master's woman, behold, my master knows not what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither has he kept back anything from me, but you, because you are Aleph, his woman. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against Elohim? Did you catch that? He understands that to do this thing, which he's asking, he'd be sinning against Elohim. He understands that it would be wrong on so many levels. And though she might be a beautiful woman, there's no good compromise. You can't compromise Yahuwah's position, because if you do, it's not going to turn out well for you. Ooh. You know, Yahuwah uses adversity as a way to accomplish prosperity. He uses, when you're down to your last and you don't know how you're going to make a way, Yahuwah uses that thing to accomplish good for you. He takes what is intended for evil and makes it work for you. He made it work for Joseph's good regarding that false witness that's going to be brought against him by Potiphar's wife. Let's go on and see about it. She tried to get him to lie with her, and he refused. And it came to pass, as she spoke to Yosef day by day, that he hearkened not unto her. She was after him, y'all. She was after him every day. This wasn't just a one-time thing. Every day she was trying to entice him. Every day she was putting on those clothes that would be enticing to a man. Every day she was asking him to lie by her or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out. How many know that that's the only position that you can take when it comes to compromising yourself? You have to get out. You have to get away. You have to get away from it. You can't stay there. You can't stay there and be enticed from it. Because if you stay there, the next thing you know, you're in it. The only position for you to take is to flee. Resist the devil and he will flee. You got to resist. You got to run. You got to leave. You can't stay in that place. He left his garment in her hand. He was one fast moving man. And it came to pass when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house and spoke unto them, saying, see, he has brought an Diďre unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. Now we know the scripture says that there was no men in the house. There was nobody there. There was nobody to hear. So she just bore false witness against Joseph because there was nobody to say anything different. So she can say what she wants to. And what do you think her husband's going to do? Let's find out. Verse 16. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spoke unto him according to these words, saying, the Diďre servant, which you have brought unto us, came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass that as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard out of Tob the words of his woman, which she spoke unto him, saying, after this manner did your servant to me, that his wrath was kindled, and Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in prison. How many of you know that that could be a killing offense? To be put into prison was merciful for Joseph because he could have been dead. He could have been dead. But as scripture says, he was put into prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But here's what happens. Verse 21. But Yahuwah was with Aleph Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand, Aleph Tav, all the prisoners that were in the prison. Look at this favor upon this man. He goes to Potiphar's house. He's given control over everything that Potiphar has. Now Potiphar puts him in prison, and he's given control over the other prisoners. The favor of Yahuwah is all over this man. Ooh-wee. And Aleph Tav, whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked Aleph Tav not to anything that was under his hand, because Yahuwah was with him. And that which he did, Yahuwah made it to prosper. So I want you to think about your life for a minute. And I want you to imagine that you're a descendant of Joseph, because you are. And I want you to understand that when you commit your way to Yahuwah, the same things that he did for Joseph, he'll do for you. He's not a respecter of persons. The same thing he did for Joseph, he'll do for you. Chapter 40, verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Mitzrayim and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guards, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. You think that's a coincidence? Happenstance? No, I'm telling you, it's a divine appointment. It's a divine appointment. And the captain of the guard charged Aleph Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in the ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night. Each man, according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Mitzrayim, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Aleph Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, wherefore look ye so sadly today? So why are you down, man? What's wrong? Why are you down? What's up? You know, why are you looking so sad? And they said unto him, we've dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told Aleph his dream to Joseph, and said to him, in my dream, behold, the vine was before me, and the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. And I took Aleph the grapes, and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup. And I gave Aleph the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, this is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up Aleph your head, and restore you unto your place. And you shall deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand after the former manner when you were his butler. What the butler didn't understand was when Joseph said, he's going to lift up your head, it wasn't in the way that he was hoping for. Okay, verse 14. But think on me when it shall be well with you, and show kindness, I pray you, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Diďre, and here also I have done nothing, that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Yosef, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh. And the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, this is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up your head from off you. And shall hang you on a tree. And the birds shall eat your flesh from off you. And it came to pass on the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday. Now, this is one of the examples that I'm talking about when they talk about birthdays in Scripture. It's never in a good way. Okay? It came to pass the 3rd day, which was Aleph Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants. He lifted up Aleph the head of the chief butler, and Aleph the chief baker among his servants. And he restored Aleph the chief butler unto his butlership again. And he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. So right there, Joseph's interpretation was spot on. Exactly what he said, exactly what happened. Verse 22, but he hanged Aleph the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Aleph Joseph, but forgot him. So the one dream was exactly as Joseph had interpreted, and the second one was exactly how Joseph had interpreted. So he was spot on with both of their dreams, and Yahuwah had allowed him to make an impression. Okay, so you know, when you have that favor upon you, it's an awesome thing. Turn with me to Amos or Amok, chapter 2, verse 6. In your Safaris, it's going to be on page 810. Amok, chapter 2, verse 6. When you have it, just say, "Come." Everybody good? Amos chapter 2, verse 6. All right. Thus says Yahuwah, for 3 transgressions of Yasher and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver. Think back to Joseph. Sold for 20 pieces of silver, less than the price of a common slave. Here it is. Thus says Yahuwah, for 3 transgressions of Yasher and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver, and the poor for a pair of shoes, that pant after the dust of the earth on the head of the poor, and turn aside the way of the meek. And a man and his father will go into the same maid. Think back. Tamar, a man and his father will go in unto the same maid to profane Aleph Tav, my holy name. No good compromise. Verse 8. And they lay themselves down upon clothes laid to pledge by every altar, and they drank the wine of the condemned in the house of their Elohim. Yet destroyed I, Aleph Tav, the Emori, before them, whose height was like the height of the cedars. Okay, you're picking up on that? Verse 9, these are giants they're talking about. Yet I destroyed Aleph Tav, the Emori, before them, whose height was like the height of the cedars. Somebody as tall as a cedar tree? That's a big fella. You don't want to mess with him. But Yahuwah allowed them to be victorious over the Emorim. And look what it says about him as the verse finishes. And he was strong as the oaks, yet I destroyed his fruit from above and his roots from beneath. Also I brought you up from the land of Mitzrayim and led you 40 years through the wilderness to possess Aleph Tav, the land of the Emori. And I raised up of your sons for prophets, and of your young men for Nazarene. Is it not even thus, O ye children of Yasher, says Yahuwah? But he gave Aleph Tav, the Nazarene, wine to drink, and commanded the prophets, saying, prophesy not Behold, I am pressed under you as a cart is pressed that is full of sheaves. Therefore, the flight shall perish from the swift, and the strong shall not strengthen his force. Neither shall the mighty deliver himself. Think about Yehuda's strength. Neither shall the mighty deliver himself. Neither shall he stand that handles the bow. And I mean, expert with the bow. And he that is swift of foot shall not deliver himself. Naphtali, swift of foot. Naphtali was so fast he could run across the top of the corn stalks and not bend the ear of corn. Neither shall he that rides the horse deliver himself. And he that is courageous among the mighty shall flee away naked in that day, says Yahuwah. So, no good compromise. The 12 tribes got caught up in some bad decisions that they made. Let's see what chapter 3 goes on to say. Hear, Aleph Tav, this word that Yahuwah has spoken against you, O children of Yasher all, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Mitzrayim, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for Aleph Tav all your iniquities. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Can the southern tribes and the northern tribes walk together unless they be agreed? Will a lion roar in the forest when he has no prey? Will a young lion cry out of his den if he have taken nothing? Can a bird fall in a snare upon the earth where no gin is for him? Shall one take up a snare from the earth and have taken nothing at all? Shall a shofar be blown in the city and the people be not afraid? Shall there be evil in a city and Yahuwah has not done it? Did you catch that? Shall there be evil in the city and Yahuwah has not done it? It didn't say, shall there be evil in the city and the adversary did it. Shall there be evil in the city and Yahuwah has not done it? Surely Adonai Yahuwah will do nothing, but he reveals his secret unto his servants, the prophets. He reveals his secrets unto his servants, the prophet. But go back up to verse 12. But ye gave the Nazarene wine to drink and commanded the prophets, saying, prophesy not. Prophesy not. They didn't want to hear what the prophets had to say. The southern and the northern tribes both went into sin. They both went into sin. One just as treacherous as her sister. They both went into sin. Holy, no good compromise. Surely Adonai Yahuwah will do nothing, but he reveals his secret unto his servants, the prophets. The lion has roared. Who will not fear? Adonai Yahuwah has spoken. Who can but prophesy? Let's go with me, if you would, to Mattithyahu chapter 1, verse 18. So on page 1231 in your supplies. Mattithyahu, chapter 1, verse 18. I hear you, Raven. Mattithyahu, chapter 1, starting at verse 18. When you have it, just say Khan. Mattithyahu, chapter 1, verse 18, and it reads, Now the birth of Yehoshua HaMashiach was on this wise, when as his mother Miriam was espoused to Joseph. Notice this next line. Before they came together. Hit that with your highlighters. Before they came together, she was found with child. Whose child was it? It tells you right here. The child of the Ruach HaKodesh. Let's just think for a moment on the position of these people that are teaching that his natural father was his father. What then would make his birth different if Joseph was his father and he was not the child of the Ruach HaKodesh, if the Most High had not overshadowed Miriam? Then he would be the same as the rest of us, born into sin. There had to be something different about Messiah. There had to be, and this is it. She was found with child of the Ruach HaKodesh, then, or the set-apart spirit, is what it's saying. Then Joseph, her man, being a just man, and not willing to make her a public example, he could have cried out and said she was in whoredom. I'm sure he was going over his mind, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with this woman? How am I going to handle this? She was found with child. What am I going to do? But he was a just man and not willing to make her a public example. He was minded to put her away privily or privately. He was thinking maybe I could just put her away and go on. But while he thought on these things, verse 20, but while he thought on these things, behold, the messenger of Yahuwah appeared unto him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, fear not to take unto you Aleph Tav, Miriam, your woman. For that which is conceived in her is of the Ruach HaKodesh. And she shall bring forth a son, and you shall call his name Yahushua, for he shall save his people from their sins. Now all this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of Yahuwah by the prophet, saying, remember, we just read that he will do nothing unless he reveals it to his prophets first. So here he is. Here it is. Verse 23. Well, let me read 22 again. Now this was all done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of Yahuwah by the prophet, saying, behold, the virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, or Yah with us, which being interpreted is our El is with us. Then Joseph, being raised up from sleep, did as the messenger of Yahuwah had bidden him, and took unto him his woman, and knew her not till she had brought forth her firstborn son. And he called his name Yahushua. Yahushua, he called his name Yahushua. So he did not know his wife at all until after he had brought forth their firstborn son. And it was on that wise that Hamashiach was born. So don't let anybody tell you that there was nothing supernatural, that there was nothing special about that child, that he was just a son like any other son. No, it was on this wise that Hamashiach was born. So remember, as you're going about your life this week, no good compromise. Think back on Yehuda and what happened to him when he compromised his position. Think back on what I said about who you're hanging out with and who you're with in your personal life. Because a lot of us, we don't want to lose our friends that we grew up with. I know it was the same for me with all of my musician friends. I didn't want to stop hanging out. I still get offers today. I got offered probably 5 times last year to play in bands. Come play in our band. But Yahuwah has called me to be set apart. And so I can't do that. I even had to stop going to the concerts. I get people call me, I got a backstage pass for you. Come to the concert, come check us out. I had a friend invite me to come sit in with him last night. Come sit in with my band. But you know what? No good compromise. I can't do that. That's who I used to be. That's not who I am now. I'm set apart now. And I have to carry myself in a set apart way. So I want you to think about it in your life right now. Where are you making a compromise? Is there any place in your life that you're making a compromise that maybe might not be a good place, where possibly you could get caught up because you just happen to be there in the wrong place at the wrong time? How many people, mamas, go in debt trying to pay the funeral director because their sons are in the wrong place at the wrong time? The funeral directors are making a grip, and the rappers are making a grip, and they're telling you, throw that gang sign, this gang, that gang, they down for you. But are they really? Are they really? Because none of them are going to show up when your mama has to pay the funeral expenses. They will not be found, trust me. I see so many of our young people getting caught up in stuff. Ask the 3 girls that decided to go rob the man at the auto parts store. And he gave them the money. And they killed him for $100. $33.33 a piece was what they got for this man's life. I didn't find out till way after the fact that I knew this person, that it was a friend of old friends of mine, that it was one of their cousins that got killed. You know, how easy it is to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But for us, Yahuwah's favor is on every one of you. That's why the things that could happen to you haven't happened to you yet, because his favor is on you, because his mercy is on you. You know, when you begin to walk, people tell you things. You might not always it may not always sink in. I know that my sister, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but my sister was experiencing some trouble. And the doctors told her, this is not going to go away. This is not going to get better. This is going to get worse. Filaments were developing in her eye where she was having, her eye was watering so bad that she could barely read. She couldn't read anymore. She was having problems driving. And I don't know if she remembers this, but we were sitting at the dining room table one day, and I said to her, Yahuwah can heal you of this, but you have to commit to him. He can heal you. He's still a healer today, just like he's always been. But you have to commit to him. You can't sit on the fence. You can't play both sides. You have to make a commitment to him. But she came to me within the last couple of weeks and said, in fact, last week at Shabbat, she said, can I borrow your Sephar? Because I can read. Guess what? My eye is better. I can read now. Can I read your Sephar? And I didn't have a problem giving it to her.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yahuwah is still a healer.
Hallelujah.
These things that we read in Torah are not things that we should take lightly. The stories of what happened to our ancestors are not something that we should esteem lightly, because Yahuwah is not a respecter of persons. The things that happened to them when they did wrong can happen to us, and the things that happened to them when they did right can happen to us. So I'm admonishing you today.
Hallelujah.
Choose life. Choose life. Don't compromise. There is no compromise for us, because we don't want to make ourselves to be crooked and fall in with what the world is doing. So on that wise, that completes our Torah portion for today. I know sometimes I can be a little long-winded and I can go on, but I'm just trying to be obedient to what Yahuwah is having me to say. And I don't know why he takes me in the direction he does sometimes. It's not my place to know. It's just my place to be obedient. Sing what he tells me, play what he tells me, teach what he tells me and what he shows me in his word. And as long as I do that, I'm going to be all right. And hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
You are too. As long as you do what he has for you to do. Don't deviate to the left. Don't deviate to the right. But whatever he tells you to do it with all speed. Hallelujah. Anybody got any comments, questions? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to share with everyone, since you were talking about music, and I'm 46 years old, and I've seen a lot of music. I've seen music, like before I came to the truth, I've seen like the hip hop music. A lot of Hebrews think hip hop is our culture. Hip hop is not our culture. That's a man-made thing, put in by the fake Jews, by the white man to destroy us.
God.
And 1988, if you go back and look at any kind of music, 1988 was when you said the switch came in. Our hip hop was strictly New York based, it was all kings and queens and knowledge and stuff. So in 1988, and they literally switched the whole music scene from being talking about kings and queens and knowledge and this stuff, to killing and drugs and all this stuff. And we got a lot of Hebrews now that think that hip hop is our culture. They dress in hip hop. They wear hip hop clothing. They still go to concerts and stuff. And we should do. Hip hop is made to destroy us.
It's a religion now,
It's a
actually,
religion
and
now,
they
right.
have a
It's
Bible
actually a
out
religion.
for it.
Hip hop is a religion.
It's a religion.
Why do you think Kanye West is coming out with Bibles? Why do you think Jay-Z is doing the things that he's doing? Why do you think they're all doing the things that they're doing? Why do you see Beyonce doing these abominable things? Because they have sold out. And there is no good compromise when you try to compromise yourself. A lot of the music that I was around, all that Parliament Funkadelic stuff, the rappers then take that and then remade it over. In fact, my friend that I wrote the song with for Ron Banks, he did all Snoop Dogg stuff. He was the bass player. His name is Tony Green. He did all the Dr. Dre, all the Snoop Dogg, all of that stuff. And don't think he didn't call me and say, do you want to be in on this? But Yah wouldn't allow me to do it, even then. And I hadn't come into the truth yet. But where he had my heart was, if I can't play it for my children, if I can't play it for my grandchildren, do I really want my name to be on it? Because all I would have been would be a name on the record. They wouldn't know me. They wouldn't know my face. They wouldn't know my name. All I would have been was a slave name on a record, and I get a check. And how easy would that be for me to think that there wouldn't be a price to pay? It would have been very easy for me to think, well, I could just do this and nobody's really going to know, right? But that's not the case. That's not the case. So I had to turn it down. And I've been turning down stuff ever since. And it's not worth it to me. You know, the world offers riches. And, you know, I like nice things just as much as the next guy. But I'm not going to let it take Yahuwah's place in my life. So, you know, that's why it's one of the things that he has me now is sharing my testimony with people, because we overcome by the word of our testimony and the blood of the Lamb. That's how we overcome. So if my testimony helps somebody not to fall into the same thing that I was falling into, then I don't mind sharing it. So anybody else have anything? That was a good point, Aki, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because the young people today don't understand that with the music, there is a spirit that is carried with that music. And what you hear going into your ears, it influences you. So, you know, you can be riding along in your car listening to whatever it is, but it's influencing you, and there's a spirit on that music. And so, you know, you have to decide, am I going to follow after the ways of men, or am I going to follow after righteousness? And for me and my house, we're going to follow after Yeshayah.
About the music, you notice in the scriptures, the Most High asks us to play some with string instruments. You don't hear no bass drum, no 808. That's where the spirit comes from, that drum.
You know, drums were used a lot in Hamite music. You know, out of Africa, the drum was a big thing. They talked with those drums. You know, they were able to pass messages with those drums. And so, you know, a lot of people get caught up with, we have to understand that the Ruach HaKodesh is in operation in us. And so, you know, we have to choose a side. We have to choose what side we're going to be on. And, you know, make the right choice. Make the right choice, because it could depend on the choices that you make now. Anybody else got anything? Want to share? Want to share anything? Question, comment on today's Torah lesson? Anything online?
No, we don't have any questions.
Okay, it's
One more thing.
Aki.
This is one of your best ones. How you tied Joseph to the Mashiach. I was sitting back smiling. I'm like, yeah, you nailed this one. You got this one.
Hallelujah.
Joseph was a type of Hamashiach.
Absolutely.
And so his story parallels
I like that.
Hamashiach. And so we could see that. And I hope that y'all saw that as we went along, that, you know, Joseph saved his people, and his dream did come true, because if you read about it, his father and all his brothers, is probably going to be in the next Torah lesson, but they did come down into Egypt, and they did bow down to him, and he kept them alive. Not only did he keep them alive, but he kept every country around them alive, because they all came into Egypt to buy during that 7-year famine period. All those surrounding countries were coming into Egypt to buy food. And they just now, not too long ago, have found what they believe is the grain storage, where Joseph stored the grain. These big, huge pits. And you got these pits, and then there's a hallway. And you enter at one end, and that's where you pay, and you go out at the other end, and that's where you load up your grain. And I'm like, you can't make this stuff up. It's just, this word is a living word. It's a living word, and it's good for us today, just as it's been good for everybody from the generations succeeding prior to us to the ones that are going to succeed us. So, Stan, Aki?
Yeah, I just had a praise report. My daughter was playing in her room with her Barbies, and she took a metal necklace and put it on something that was plugged in. And, you know, it wasn't good, you know, electricity and all that. But y'all protect her, didn't let her get electrocuted.
Hallelujah.
Get hurt.
Hallelujah.
And, you know, I just praise y'all for his protection. You know, even when we're not there, the enemy is never sitting down. He's always looking out to get in. There's no open doors here. So praise y'all.
Hallelujah.
Give them a hand, he's worthy.
Hallelujah.
Mothers and fathers, continue to pray for your children. Please don't ever stop praying for your children. And as we pray out today, I like to say a prayer for the children of Yasher, because they need us to absolutely keep on lifting them up, keep on hoping for them. If they're not walking in truth yet, keep on praying for them, because Yahuwah is in the business of restoration, and Yahushua is a restorer. So if you would stand with me. Again, we're going to face the east. Abba Yahuwah, we come to you now saying Diďre for your word, your Torah, and what you have brought forth to us today. In your Torah lesson, there is so much wisdom. And we say Diďre for that You show us not only what happened with our ancestors, but how things can affect us in our lives even today. That's why I'm quick to say that your word is a living word. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
You're awesome. And your word doesn't return to you void, but accomplishes the purpose for which it is sent. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So as we get ready to leave this place, but never your presence, we ask that you would be a hedge about the children of Yasher all today. We ask that the children would see the behavior of their parents as they're walking in Torah. We ask that they would see the good works of their parents and esteem you, Yahuwah, in Shamayim. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We ask that you would be their shield and their buckler. We ask that you would be their strong tower. We ask that you would send your messengers to encamp round and about the children even now. Keep them, charge them to keep them safe from all hurt, harm, and danger. We ask that you would grant traveling mercy, so that those who have come today will make it safely back to their point of origin or to their next destination. We ask that you would be with them, that you would keep them from accident or incident or interaction with law enforcement. We say to die for the conviction that was brought this week for the police officer that killed the Diďre, shot him 8 times in the back. This is the first of the convictions. We say to die that you are beginning to bring justice. And we know that you will bring justice for what has been done to our ancestors. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
That though hundreds of years have passed, it has not gone unnoticed by you. And that there will be a price to pay for what has been done to our people. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So we say to Diďre, Abba Yahuwah, for all that you have done, for all that you are doing even now, and for all that you will do. And we ask that you would touch any of those that are sick among us, as the elders are here. And we all agree in prayer right now. We ask that you would touch, heal, renew, and restore. We ask that you would rekindle the flame if the flame is waning. We ask that in our hearts, you would cause us to be not just hearers, but doers of your word. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We ask that you would continue to lead us and guide us in your paths of righteousness for your name's sake. Hallelujah.
You are worthy. Hallelujah.
And finally, we say Todah Rabbah for the food which we are about to receive. Barak are you, Yahuwah, our Lord, King of the universe, who brings forth the bread from the earth. Barak are you, Yahuwah, our Lord, King of the universe, who brings forth the fruit from the vine. We say to Da for this food, your bounty, which we are about to receive. We ask that you would barak it to the nourishment of our bodies and minds, that you would sanctify it and purify it in Hashem Yahushua. Aman. Hallel Yahuwah. Hallel Yahushua. May Yahuwah barak you and keep you. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. Barak the children of Yasher, and I will barak them in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, our Messiah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Let's give him a worship, a clap of worship, and a clap of praise. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Well, once again, we've had an awesome Shabbat, and I'm so encouraged to see the Mishpachah here today. I hope you all enjoy the food that's been prepared for you. Enjoy the fellowship with your family. It's always good to see my family, and I'm so glad that y'all are here today. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Right.